Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University. School of Agriculture, SOA Postgraduate Diploma in Agribusiness, PGDAB MAM 051 Fundamentals of Agriculture. Block-1 Indian Agriculture. Unit-1 Evolution and Development of Agriculture. 1.0 Objectives. After reading this unit, you will be able to discuss the changes in agriculture since the inception of civilization. Explain the phases of agriculture development in India. State the various programs implemented for the development of agriculture, and highlight the development of education, research and extension systems in agriculture. 1.1 Introduction. The word agriculture is derived from the two Latin words ager referring to the soil and cultura referring to the cultivation. Thus, agriculture is a very broad term encompassing all aspects of crop production, livestock farming, fisheries, poultry, forestry etc. All primary necessities of human life viz. Food, clothing and housing are directly related to agriculture. Agriculture is the main profession and the most important human economic activity worldwide. It differs from other industries being a biological process. Agriculture channelizes the energy from incoming solar radiation into crops and all livestock through efficient management practices. The physical resource base determines the level of use to which land can be most economically put to agriculture at a particular time. The natural variability of the physical environment makes agriculture one of the most unpredictable human activities. Soil, climate and plants are three major components of agriculture. In the absence of any one of these, agriculture is not possible. Growing plants in the existing land base under prevailing climatic conditions are called agriculture. Both soil and climate together make the environment, which influences the completion of the plant life cycle. Plants convert the environmental inputs like solar energy, carbon dioxide, water and soil nutrients into economic products in terms of human or animal food or industrial raw materials. This unit introduces you to agriculture, particularly the evolution and development of agriculture. Development of agriculture during various phases in India, the programs implemented, education, research and extension systems to support the agriculture sectors, etc. are the major contents discussed in this unit. 1.2 History of Indian Agriculture. India was the pastoral country before agriculture started. Concurrently, the development of crops and animals took place, leading to the emergence of various types of farming systems that are now seen in different parts of the country. The most important contribution of India towards the development of agriculture is the cultivation of rice, which is now the staple food of South, Southeast and East Asia. Sugarcane, several legumes and tropical fruits like mango are also natives of India. Mohenjo-daro to Harappa territory was the center of the agricultural revolution in the Indus Valley during the period 3000 to 1700 BC. The scene of this revolution was in the countries between the river Nile and the Ganges. Excavations in this area have revealed huge granaries. Barley, wheat, sesame, peas, cotton, mustard, date palm and lentil were the main crops during the period. Wooden plough and wheeled cart were in use. Harappans knew ginning, spinning and weaving of cotton into cloth. Farmers used sling bowl for scaring birds, cattle, buffalo, goats, sheep, pigs, camel, ass, dog and cat. These have special mention in the list of domesticated animals. About 1800 to 1600 BC, Aryans migrated to India and got mixed with the Harappans. Horses were the main domesticated animal besides cattle. Agriculture was the most important profession during the Vedic age, 1500–1000 BC. The use of iron implements, particularly iron plough, became prevalent. Besides, barley, wheat, beans, sesame, millets and rice are frequently referred to in Vedas. The importance of trees is mentioned during the Buddhist period, 600 BC. The importance of sowing season, climate, cloud, Soil fertility, irrigation and weed control has been emphasized several times in Mahabharata and Ramayana during the period 1500 BC, respectively. Irrigation from rivers, lakes and reservoirs has also been mentioned. During the 1st century of the Christian era and 300 AD, the cultivation of rice with irrigation from the Kaveri River was the most important event in Indian agriculture. After 300 AD, during the period of Chandragupta II, Amarkosha was written, in which there is a mention of classification of soil and land use, irrigation, implements and use of manures. Rice transplanting was practiced till that period besides cultivation of several field crops, vegetables and fruits etc. During the Kannauj Empire of Harsha, 606 to 647 AD, fine scented rice was grown in Magadh. Pomegranates and sweet oranges were also grown during this period. There is mention about land manuring, crop rotation, irrigation, tillage, implements, crop protection and meteorology in the book Krishi Parastri written during 950 to 1100 AD. Several water reservoirs were made during the period 1336 to 1646 AD and irrigation channels were constructed and Interajar Sagar in Vijayanagar district of A.P. 1337 AD, is one example. Later Babur laid the foundation of the Mughal dynasty in India. Except for gardens, flowers and provision of irrigation mainly in South India, there was nothing special about agricultural development. The peasants became disinterested in agriculture because of the large sum extracted from them as peasantry tax. 1.3 Agriculture in prehistoric era. Since agriculture fulfills the need for food for humans and animals, it appears to be a very primitive step of human civilization. The earliest man, Homo erectus, emerged around 1.5 million years ago and spread throughout the Old World tropics and later to temperate zones. About 500,000 years ago, he probably learned to control and use fire. The earliest man was distinguished from fellow animals by his intelligence and skill in making tools and selection for self-use. Homo sapiens, the direct ancestor of modern man, lived 250,000 years ago. Homo sapiens, the modern man, appeared in Africa 35,000 years ago. He was distinguished from all other extinct species of genus Homo by a large brain, small teeth and chin and capacity for making and using tools. He hunted a variety of animals and cooked their meat on fire. The weapons for hunting were boulders and spears of wood tipped with blades of flint. He also used stone-tipped arrows. Later, he domesticated the dog, which greatly helped him in hunting. Apart from the meat, he gathered a variety of seeds, leaves, fruits, roots, and other parts of plants from the forest for food. He had no control over the food supply and was unable to clothe and shelter adequately. During the period 8700 BC to 7700 BC, he domesticated animals and turned a herdsman. He first domesticated sheep and later goats. Between the period 7500 BC to 6500 BC, man gradually shifted from hunting towards agriculture. Stone axes were used for cutting trees and fire for burning forests. Agriculture has no single and simple origin. It was started in different parts of the world during different periods. The evolution of agriculture took place gradually with the changes in human civilization, mostly based on experiences. The exact evidence is not known about the shifting of man into agriculture from hunting and gathering of animals for food. The hunting and gathering of food was a difficult job to collect the food for each individual, while pastoral life and agriculture could support a group. Thus, residing in groups or camps and dependency of food on plants had started in human civilization. It is expected that prehistoric agriculture might have developed in several steps as under a. Conservation of desirable native plants, by using various parts of plants like roots, seeds, leaves, flowers, fruits, etc. Probably man would have identified the desirable plants, which he referred to as crop plants. Later on, he might have tried to conserve those plants from danger. B. Collection and preservation of seeds. After eating the fruits, man would have thrown the seeds elsewhere, and they have seen the germination of the same type of plants from thrown seeds. With this experience, they might have learnt and decided to grow these plants by using the collected and preserved seeds at the desirable place. In this way, they would have started the collection and preservation of seeds of useful plants. C. Sowing of seeds. With the increase in population, when the man would have faced a shortage of foods, they might have started sowing based on climatic suitability. D. Tilling of land. When birds or air or flow of water damaged seeds, they might have thought to loose the hard soil surface with the help of stone or wooden tools, putting the seeds inside the soil to avoid the damages. E. Shifting cultivation. After continuous growing of the same plants for a long time, they might have observed poor growth in plants and finally the yield. Thus, they might have left the land by using another land for growing the plants. Initially, there was enough land for raising the crops/plants, and when they found a reduction in the yield on the same land, then they might have shifted their farming to other newly acquired lands by leaving the old land and living places. This system of farming is referred to as shifting cultivation and is followed in some tribal belts of Africa and Asia. F. Weed control. Farmers in ancient ages might have seen growing several unwanted plants with the desirable plants competing with them for growth resources. With this experience, they might have started control of these unwanted plants, weeds, from the fields by uprooting or cutting, etc. Women mostly performed this work from the very beginning. G. Fallowing of land. With the gradual increase in the population, people have probably started living in groups together and established villages with some economic management, and then the practice of shifting cultivation would have been avoided. On experiencing the reduction in yield due to continuous raising of crop plants on the same soil, they might have started fallowing of some portion of land and tilling of old fallow land with unwanted green plants. Then they might have experienced good yield from the fallow land. H. Use of domestic wastes as plant nourishment. By the use of domestic wastes in agriculture as plant nourishment, people must have experienced the good growth of crop plants. Then they might have started to preserve these wastes and use them in the cropped land as manure. Meanwhile, they might have domesticated several animals like sheep, goats, cows and buffalo, etc. for their support, and then they must have seen the tremendous effect of dung, urine and animal wastes in improving the soil fertility. Thus, they had started the use of ashes, domestic wastes, animal dung and urine and animal wastes in the process of agricultural production. I. Following crop rotation. In due time, the cultivators must have realized that growing cereals after legume crop give better yield, which resulted in crop rotation practice. Later, they must have known that legume plants fix atmospheric nitrogen through their root nodules. J. Green manuring. Later, with this experience, legumes must have been grown and then turning them into the soil with the help of available equipment to improve the soil fertility. The important events in the history of agriculture after 7500 BC can be listed below. Period events: 7500 BC conservation of crops, wheat, barley; 6000 BC domestication of cattle and pigs; 4000 BC cultivation of maize; 3500 BC cultivation of potato; 3400 BC wheel was invented; 3000 BC bronze was used to make tools; 2900 BC plough was invented and irrigation started; 2700 BC silk moth domesticated; 2300 BC cultivation of chickpea, pea, mustard and cotton; domestication of fowl, buffalo and elephant; 2200 BC cultivation of rice in India; 1200 BC cultivation of finger millet, rargai; 1725 BC cultivation of sorghum; 1700 BC taming of horses; 1500 BC cultivation of sugarcane and irrigation from wells; 1400 BC use of iron; 1500 AD cultivation of sweet orange, sour orange, wild brinjal, pomegranate; 1600 AD introduction of several crops in India from Portugal like sweet potato, arrowroot, cassava, tomato, chilies, pumpkin, papaya, pineapple, guava, custard apple, groundnut, cashew nut, tobacco, American cotton, rubber. 1.4 Agricultural development. Before independence, different dynasties had promulgated rules mostly related to the collection of revenue and tax, which influenced agriculture. During the domain of Arabs, taxes were laid on land in the form of 2/5 of produce or cash. Later, in the regime of Alauddin, the revenue was fixed at 1/2 of the produce. However, the charges were calculated based on standard yields. Agriculture suffered due to the framing of rules not being favorable to the farming community. The produce was collected and kept under storage by the rulers. Agriculture was encouraged by Ghiyasuddin Tughlaq, 1321 to 1325. The taxes in the form of land revenue were reduced. The land revenues were settled upon the principal, which was not more than 1/10 of the produce. Granaries were established to store grains for long periods. During the time of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, Sultan used to possess the best fertile land, and to enhance productivity, resources were used officially. According to Ibn Battuta, 1325 to 1354, work on reclamation of wasteland was started along with state farming. Wells were dug and cultivators were given loans. The rotation of crops was also initiated. Attention was given to planting various economical fruit trees. Firoz Shah Tughlaq, 1351 to 1388, introduced the Jagir system by giving lands to the actual owners. The canal system for irrigation was introduced, and the Western Yamuna Canal was constructed to use the flood water in 1355. The tax was introduced on irrigation water. The barren land became usable for agriculture. During Akbar's period, 1555 to 1605, Toda Mal made reforms in the revenue system by obtaining the correct measurement of the land, ascertaining the quality of the produce, and settlement on the equivalent in money. The productivity based on fertility was also considered. Tax on fruit gardens was also introduced. Tokawi loans were allowed to cultivators for the purchase of seed and cattle on surety for their payment. Repayment was made at first harvest and remaining by the next. The cultivators who were cultivating the land personally were given permanent and hereditary occupancy of the land he tilled. Later, the burden of taxation increased on cultivators, which resulted in revolts. As a result, the zamindari system was abolished during 1669 to 1710 in East Punjab. Hastings in 1772 changed the revenue system, according to which lands were allotted to farmers for 5 years and pattars were given, which led to permanent settlement, but the cultivators and their tenants remained to live in distress. The Europeans, primarily the Britishers, arrived in India in the early 17th century and by the 18th century had made a profound impact on India. India was forced, for the first time, into a coordinate role within a world system based on industrial production rather than agriculture. Many of the dynamic craft and cottage industries that had long attracted foreigners to India suffered extensively under competition with new modes of mass production fostered by the British. Modern institutions, such as universities, technologies, rail lines, roads, mass communication were developed to serve British rather than Indian economic interest. A country that in the 18th century was a magnet for trade, by the 20th century, became underdeveloped and overpopulated under alien domination. During the British regime, attempts were made to boost agricultural production. General improvements made in transport, like a rail system, promotion of export of some agricultural commodities, the introduction of land tenure system also helped the agriculture in general. The Department of Agriculture was created by the Government of India in 1871, which was followed by the state governments. In 1943, the All India Policy on Agriculture was drafted. As a result of the Bengal famine in 1942, efforts were made to increase agricultural production in the country. Several steps were taken up to improve agriculture in the pre-independence era. Land ownership was given to a small group of people to collect the rent from individual farmers and pay to the government, a system known as zamindari. There was also the retuari system, in which the ruler used to collect rent directly from farmers who had settled on the land. Farmers had no security of possessed land, hence they had no interest in land development. Irrigation schemes were initiated in major river deltas for raising additional revenue. A separate Department of Agriculture was created at the national level in 1871. Some of the provinces, now states, also created independent agriculture departments. Facilities for agricultural education were created at Coimbatore in 1878 and Pune in 1890. After the Great Famine of 1876-77, a famine commission was appointed in 1880. Dr. J. A. Volekar, consultant chairman of the Royal Agriculture Society, submitted the report on improvement in Indian agriculture in 1891. In the first decade of the 20th century, the Imperial, now Indian, Agricultural Research Institute was set up in 1905 at Pusa, Bihar. Subsequently, agricultural colleges were started at Coimbatore, Pune, Nagpur, and Kanpur. Royal Commission, 1926, report was accepted in 1928. Department of Food was created in 1942 to meet the food requirement. Grow More Food Campaign, Food Policy Committee, Famine Inquiry Committee and Fertilizer Production Program were initiated. In January 1946, the Statement of Agriculture and Food Policy in India was issued with 10 objectives to promote the welfare of the people and improvement of their standard of living. Steps were taken to organize research support to agriculture through research institutions. 1.5 Agricultural development after independence. During the time of independence, India was in great distress to supply the food grain to feed its population. Therefore, many initiatives were taken to enhance the production and productivity of agriculture. The important initiatives are discussed as under 1.5.1 Land reforms. At the time of independence, 3 types of land tenure systems prevailed in the country: the Zamindari, Mahelwari, and Rayatwari. They differed in mode of payment of land revenue. Zamindari and Mahelwari have exploited farmers, as it created a class of zamindars who did not cultivate the land themselves but were getting the cultivation done by labor. Such labor depended on zamindars for dwellings, food and other needs. After independence, the land reforms were taken to stop the exploitation of actual tillers, to remove impediments to increase agricultural production, eliminate all types of exploitations and social injustice, provide security to the actual tillers and assure equality of status and opportunity to all sections of the rural population. A statutory limit in the area of land an individual can possess was fixed, including existing holdings and future acquisition. This is based on the local conditions of the states in economical or uneconomical lands. The land ceiling helps provide land to landless persons who may work with better zeal and produce more by increasing productivity. The fallow land is brought under cultivation. Cooperative farming has also been followed for better production. 1.5.2 Green Revolution. The need to increase agricultural production due to continuing stagnation of production on one hand and rapidly increasing demand on the other hand was realized. A team of experts sponsored by the Ford Foundation was invited by the Government of India in the latter half of the second 5-year plan to suggest ways and means to increase agricultural production and productivity. The team submitted its report entitled Indian Food Crisis and Steps to Meet in April 1959. This report suggested increasing production and productivity in some selected regions of the country with emphasis on the use of modern inputs like fertilizers, credit, marketing facilities, etc. The government introduced an intensive development program in 7 selected districts of 7 states in 1960, and this program was named IGNOU, Intensive Area Development Program. The selected districts under IGNOU were required to have assured irrigation, minimum hazards like floods, drought and soil erosion, use of fertilizers, plant protection measures, and easy availability of agricultural credit. The program was implemented in West Godavari, AP, Shahabad, Bihar, Raipur, MP, Tanjore, Tamil Nadu, Ludhiana, Punjab, Aligarh, Up, and Pali, Rajasthan. The first 4 was selected for rice, the next 2 for wheat and the last 1 for millets. 8 more districts were added in 1962-63. This program was later extended to all states by selecting 1 district from each state for intensive development. In October 1965, The program was widened to 114 districts out of 325, in the name of the Intensive Agricultural Area Program. The period of the mid-60s was very significant from the point of view of agriculture. New high-yielding varieties of wheat were developed in Mexico by Professor Norman Borlaug and his associates. As a result of this, the production of wheat per hectare rose to the high level of 5,000 to 6,000 kilograms in Mexico in 1965. Taiwan also recorded an almost similar yield. These high-yielding varieties, HYV, required proper irrigation facilities and extensive use of fertilizers and pesticides. Accordingly, these were introduced in the form of a package program. Dwarf high-yielding varieties of wheat like Kalyan Sona and Sonalika were developed using the Northern dwarfing gene. In 1965, on the initiation of C. Swaramaniam, the then Minister of Food and Agriculture, 250 tons of the wheat seed of important varieties Lema Rosso 64 and Sonora 64 were imported from Mexico. The area under dwarf high-yielding varieties of wheat was increased from 4 hectares in 1964 to 4 meters high in 1971. This could give 20 to 30% more yield. The farming area was continuously expanded and multiple crop cultivation was encouraged. The term Green Revolution was coined in the 1960s when improved varieties of wheat resulted in quite high yields as they were more responsive to controlled irrigation, chemical fertilizers and better plant protection measures. Later, new high-yielding varieties of rice and maize were also developed, which increased the yields tremendously. This was followed by continued expansion of farming areas and a double cropping system. The value of seed with improved genetics was realized. The Green Revolution resulted in a record yield of 131 million tons in 1978-79. The yield per hectare was increased by 30%. Besides advantages, the Green Revolution has also created some problems. To arrange the required inputs, farmers often went into debt. Many small landholders and landless farm workers migrated to urban areas. Assured irrigation has created the problem of salinization, waterlogging, and lowering of water tables in certain areas. The pesticide residue problem increased due to more use of pesticides. The Green Revolution in agriculture has affected both agricultural biodiversity and wild biodiversity negatively, as it depended more on a few varieties in each crop. 1.5.3 Chemical fertilizers. Chemical fertilizer is an important input in increasing agricultural production by providing soil-efficient nutrients to plants, which are necessary for growth, and has played a vital role in the Green Revolution. By 1980, India had more than 100 fertilizer factories manufacturing urea, ammonium phosphate and potash. The utility of chemical fertilizers was realized due to drought in 1950 and 1951, which created a food shortage resulting in the import of huge quantities of food grains. Presently, there are 173 fertilizer manufacturing plants with an installed capacity of 479.61 lakh tons of urea, DAP, SSP and others complex fertilizers. As of the 1st of April 2018, the production of urea, DAP and other complex fertilizers are 240.00, 38.99 and 89.98 lakh tons in 2018-19, respectively. The fertilizer consumption has increased from 2 kg/ha in 1961 to 133.12 kg/ha in 2018-19, which increased the food grains production from 83 million tons to 285 million tons during the same period. Emphasis is being given on biofertilizers like nitrogen-fixing bacteria, phosphorus solubilizing bacteria, blue-green algae, vermin compost, etc. Organic farming is being preferred these days. 1.5 4 Quality seeds. Pathogen-free high-yielding quality seed is required in any crop production program. Farmers used to select, save and store seeds for sowing. Seed Review Committee in 1968 and subsequent committees reviewed the issues related to seeds. For quality seed production, National Seed Corporation, 1963, and State Farms Corporations, 1969, were established. Indian Seed Act was passed in 1966 and seed rules were framed in 1968 to control the quality of seed. Indian minimum seed standards were fixed in 1971, which were revised in 1988. The parameters of seed quality were genetic purity, free from other crop seeds, weed seeds, inert matter, seed moisture, seed germination and seed-borne pathogens. The seeds are classified into nucleus seed, breeder seed, foundation seed and certified seed. Nucleus seed is the basic seed developed by the concerned breeder. The breeder seed is produced from the nucleus seed by the breeders. From breeder seed, foundation seed is produced, and from foundation seed, the certified seed is produced. The breeder seeds are produced by agricultural universities, agricultural institutes. The foundation and certified seeds are produced by State Seed Corporation as well as SOAs and institutes. Seed certification is done by state seed certification agencies. Efforts are being made to increase the seed replacement rate. 1.5.5 Irrigation. Water is an essential component in the crop production system. The selection of crops in a region is based on the availability of water. Collection of rainwater and its utilization at distant places and different times through canals is an age-old practice. The area under irrigation has increased and the efforts are continuing to increase it further. In 1950, net irrigated area was 20.6 million hectares, which was about 27% of the total irrigation potential of the country. Large dams were constructed like Bhakra Nangal Dam, 1948-63, Moyurokhi scheme on Moyurokhi River, 1946-56, Hirakund project on Mahanadi River, 1948-57, Damodar Valley project on Damodar River, 1950-58, Rihan Dam on Sone River, 1952-62, Tungabhadra project on Tungabhadra River, 1945-54, Kakrar Paura project on Tapti River, 1949-55, etc. Several large dams are still under construction on important rivers. They not only provide water for irrigation but are also used for electricity generation. Irrigation is being done through open wells and tube wells also. Small and large watersheds are made in villages or a group of villages to collect rainwater and use it in Kharif and Rabi season as per need. Sprinkler and drip irrigation systems have been evolved to have better water use efficiency. The net irrigated area is 67.30 million hectares and the gross irrigated area is 96.62 million hectares 2015-16, but still, the large area is rainfed and efforts are continued to use available water further. Projects on the joining of rivers are being planned to have better utilization of available water. 1.5.6 Farm implements. In the early days, farmers used to develop implements as per their needs. They used plows, hoes, sickles, etc., which were modified from time to time. Their place has been taken over by farm machines like tractors, cultivators, seed drills, harvesters, threshers, combine harvesters, etc. Machines have been developed looking to the need of special crops like sugarcane, potato, groundnut, etc. for planting as well as harvesting. For the seed industry, special machinery has been developed for processing, cleaning, storage, packaging, etc. Production of tractors started in 1961-62 in India and later several manufacturing units started working. The mechanization enabled farmers to change their cropping pattern, preferring more profitable crops. 1.5.7 Prices. The cultivators were exploited by merchants as they gave the minimum price for their produce. At harvest, the merchants used to dictate the price, purchased at a cheaper price, retained the produce and sold at a higher price later. Looking to the input cost on fertilizers, improved seed, farm equipment, intercultural operations, etc., agriculture became a commercial enterprise. The Agricultural Prices Commission was established in 1965, now renamed as Commission for Agriculture Costs and Prices, CACP, with a function to determine support price in advance of the harvest for all major crops. Based on the increase in the cost of inputs, the support price is increased accordingly year-wise. The Food Corporation of India was formed in 1965 to procure, store, transport, distribute and control the sale of food grains. This helped the cultivators in selling their produce at a reasonable price. 1.6 Animal husbandry. Animal husbandry is a part of the integrated agricultural system. Dairy, poultry, fisheries, goats and sheep are closely associated with agriculture. Dairy, cattle were indispensable in the past and even today, they are important as they are used in agricultural practices like ploughing, sowing, interculture, threshing operations and transport through bullock carts etc. The development of cattle was both for milk as well as for draft capacity. Some Indian breeds of cattle are excellent. They are classified into the milch breed, general utility breed and draft breed. India is the largest milk-producing country in the world. About 70 million households are engaged in dairy. The dairy depended on the crop residues and other leftover and byproducts as feed, but now grains and other required nutrients are being provided. The livestock efficiency has been increased by introducing new breeds and hybridization programs. The upkeep of livestock has experienced vast advancement. The handling of milk is highly scientific and is being transported to long distances. National Dairy Development Board through the Operation Flood program not only made India self-sufficient in milk and milk products but started exporting to other countries. This is named as White Revolution. The Operation Flood program was implemented in phases through cooperatives from 1970 when 20 million tons was the milk production. In 1991-92, it increased to 55.7 and in 2019-20 to 198.6 million tons. The dairy industry has developed most successfully. 2. Poultry. Poultry includes domestic fowls which are reared for their flesh, eggs and feathers like chickens, ducks, geese, turkeys, guinea fowls, pigeons etc. However, usually, chickens have gained greater importance as poultry. Much advancement has been made in chickens to home breeds with more egg-laying capacity and tender flesh. Poultries are now hand-managed as well as fully mechanized. India is the second largest producer of eggs and one of the largest broiler producers in the world. The country has developed the essential technology and capability of providing required inputs for poultry farming. 3. Fisheries. Fisheries have received great attention as a large population depends on fishes of seashores, riverbanks, large tanks etc. Excellent development has taken place in the advancement of fisheries from egg management to full development and post-harvest technology. The fishes are of various kinds like catfish, mullets, daurab, herrings, pomfrets, shrimps, tuna etc. The total fish production in 2019-20 is estimated to be 14.16 million tons. 4. Goats and sheep. Goats and sheep are an important component in an agricultural enterprise. Goats reproduce fast and can live on sparse vegetation and extreme climatic conditions. They are good for arid and semi-arid zones. They provide meat, skin, milk and manure. Sheep are useful for getting wool. Chegu, an inhabitant of the temperate region like Himachal Pradesh and Uttarakhand, is famous for very soft, fine and warm fiber called pashmina. Another breed, Changtangi of the Leh region, also produces similar fine fiber. The long fibers of Gaddi and Marwari sheep are used for making rugs, ropes etc. In India. More than 20 well-defined breeds of goats exist besides some regional goats. Barbari and Jamunapari from Up, Beetle from Punjab, Surti from Gujarat, Sirohi from Rajasthan, Kannai Yadu from Tamil Nadu are some important breeds used for different purposes. Efforts are being made for further advancements and improvements. 1.7 Agricultural Research, Extension and Education System. During the post-independence, the extension of agricultural education in the country has witnessed a sea change both in content and quality. Because of the changed scenario of agriculture, on the recommendation of the Education Commission, 1948, Joint Indo-American Teams of 1955, 1959 and 1961, and Education Commission, 1964-66, State Agricultural Universities, SAU, were established to integrate agriculture education, research and extension activities in the country. At present, 63 SOAs, 4 deemed universities and 3 central agricultural universities besides about 40 faculties of agriculture in traditional universities. These institutions include agriculture, veterinary science, agricultural engineering, forestry, dairy technology, food technology, horticulture, fisheries, home science and agricultural marketing. The 7th Schedule of the Constitution of India allocated the responsibility of agricultural education, research and extension functions to the union and state governments. The Indian Council of Agricultural Research, ICAR, as the apex agency, is responsible for the growth and development of agricultural education and research in India. The ICAR coordinates research in the country through its wide network of national and central research institutes, 64 national research centers, 15 project directorates, 13 national bureaus, 6 all India coordinated research project, 60 network projects, 19 and other programs, 10. 1.7.1 Indian Council of Agricultural Research, ICAR Imperial Council of Agricultural Research was constituted to promote, guide and coordinate agricultural research in the country, to impart training to researchers and to provide scholarships for students. It included animal husbandry as well. The resolution was passed on the 23rd of May 1929. After independence, the imperial word was replaced by Indian. At present, ICAR is headed by Director General, supported by Deputy Director Generals and Assistant Director Generals. There are national institutes on crops like rice, CRRI, Katak, cotton, Sikh, Nagpur pulses, Pur, Kanpur, jute, Krichuf, Barakpur, sugarcane, Esr, Lucknow, sugarcane breading, SPI, Coimbatore, tobacco, CTRI, Rajmundry, and forages, IGFRE, Jhansi. National research centers are for groundnut, Junagadh, sorghum, Hyderabad, and soybean, Indore. Project directorates are for rice, Hyderabad, oilseeds, Hyderabad, wheat, kernel, maize, New Delhi, and rapeseed and mustard, Bharatpur. In horticultural crops, national institutes are for mango, Lucknow, tuber crops, Thiruvananthapuram, horticultural research, Hasaraghatta, plantation crops, Kasaragod, potato, Shimla, arid horticulture, Bikaner, temperate horticulture, Srinagar, spices, Marikunu, and vegetables, Varanasi. The national research centers are for citrus, Nagpur, mushroom, Solan, cashew nut, Puttur, oil palm, Pedauriugai, orchids, Sikkim, grapes, Panay, banana, Trichy, onion and garlic, Panay, medicinal and aromatic plants, Anand, and seed species, Ajmer. Some other centers are NBPGR, New Delhi, NSIT, New Delhi, Biotechnology, New Delhi, Fingerprinting, New Delhi, Biological Control, Bangalore, Weed Science, Jabalpur, and BAME, MAU. 82 All India Coordinated Research Projects are running in the crops in different agroclimatic regions to identify the varieties and production technology suited to specific areas. There are main centers, sub-centers and verifying centers as per need. 1.7.2 State Agricultural Universities. There are 63 state agricultural universities, SAU, and 3 central agricultural universities, CAU. Some states have more than one agricultural universities also. Agricultural universities have colleges with different functions in different parts of the states. All the agricultural universities have faculties as per need and facilities to cover different aspects of agriculture. 1.7.3 Krishi Vigyan Kendra. Krishi Vigyan Kendras, KVK, has been established to cater for the immediate need of farmers as well as to keep them updated with new technology developed on various crops and allied areas. There are 722 KVKs in the country. Almost all the districts in the country have at least one KVK. Most KVKs are with agricultural universities, whereas some are with other agencies including non-government organizations. 1.8 Summary. Agriculture is a broad term comprising of crop production, horticulture, animal husbandry, fisheries, poultry, forestry, sericulture, etc. Agriculture channelizes the environmental inputs into economic products through cultivation and animal raising practices. The development of agriculture has occurred in several phases. In the prehistoric era, conservation of desirable native plants, collection and preservation of seeds, sowing of seeds, tilling of land, shifting cultivation, weed control, use of domestic waste as a plant nutrient, crop rotation, green manuring, etc. are the major development. In agriculture, cultivation of several crops was started. Domestication of animals was done. Different dynasties in India have formulated rules, mainly related to taxes, which influenced agriculture. Britishers arrived in India during the 17th century. They attempted to boost agricultural production. Department of Agriculture was created in India in 1871. A system of zamindari and ratwari was created to collect the rent from the farmers. During the independence, India was short of food grains to feed its population and there was an immediate need to enhance the food grains production in the country. For this purpose, several initiatives such as land reforms, use of high-yielding varieties of seeds and chemical fertilizers, development of irrigation facilities were promoted. Schemes were started to promote the dairy, fisheries and other allied sectors. The Operation Flood program played a vital role in the growth of the dairy sector. Promote the research, education and extension in agriculture to enhance the agriculture production. Various institutions in the area of crop production, veterinary science, agricultural engineering, forestry, dairy technology, food technology, horticulture, fisheries, home science and agricultural marketing were established. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video, with next chapter.